is... Okay, I'm just doing small muscle. Tell me if I just autocorrect, just little name apart. There. Perfect. Cool. Hopefully Todd will not panic yet.
Okay, good. Was he looking for me?
No, it's just he seemed to get a little worried when I was like... Oh, yeah?
Hello, everyone! Hi, welcome to Folk Tales for Adults! Oh my gosh, you all just literally sounded sad. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna pretend like whatever that was didn't just happen. Muster all your energy together for Folk Tales for Adults! Oh my gosh, that is going to be the excitement that we greet every single storyteller up here. Yes?
Can we actually be mindful of the people trying to listen to the panel next door?
Yeah.
I've had a lot of trouble. I mean, it is unfortunate that the panels are crushed together with paper thin walls, but
Yeah, for sure.
I don't want to be so loud that the people over there.
No, we'll just clap for people 5 times during our show, and I think that will be fine. Awesome. And so we are here not only to tell you the stories that we see in those Disney movies. They are not true. They are, tie up with a little ribbon at the end. Those are not the stories that we're here to hear today. We're here to dig into the dark, the weird, the modernized fairy tales for you and I don't see any rogue children have snuck into our room here today. And if they do, they can learn along with us, right? So we have 5 amazing storytellers that are going to be coming up here today. I'm just going to encourage you all to participate in your art a little bit. If something is funny, feel free to laugh, okay? I know we're literary, but sometimes, we like that feedback. If something's really beautiful and well written, you're like, oh, that's cool, you might give it a little snap. Can we practice that? Our little snaps? Awesome. All right, and then as we said before, we have artists coming up here and being brave, and some of them haven't performed in a long, long time. I don't know if you know, there is like this little thing called a pandemic happening. So we're excited to have them here with us. So we're gonna fill this room with love and wonder. And our first storyteller today, I'm so excited to have him here. He is a writer, a comedian, and other nouns. He's written for Adult Swim TV, Tigtone, and performed all over the country, plus 4 times in international waters where there are no rules. Put your hands together as we welcome to the stage Joseph Scrimshaw!
Thank you, Allison. It is so wonderful to be here. I'm very excited to share this story. Here we go. It was a strange time. A plague swirled through the land. It couldn't be seen, but people could feel it slamming at their shuttered windows. So for a time, everyone lived mostly in their homes, determined, stressed, and yes, often pantsless. People interacted mainly through computers. They smiled into computer cameras for everything. Business meetings, extra awkward first dates, funerals, everything. Everyone lived their life, torso and up. One night, a woman named Doris was chatting through her computer with her torso friends. It was fun, but she was tired. Tired of everyone talking at the same time, then pausing so they didn't interrupt. Tired of deciding to look into her friend's eyes or the cameras. When it was finally over, Doris felt drunk on a strange cocktail of bliss and shame. She sighed, walked away, and went to bed. She forgot, however, to turn off her camera. The glow of the computer stared into the empty living room. Doris did not see what happened next. The glow of the computer flickered and went out, replaced by an eerie blue light. Slowly and silently, the light poured from the screen. It forked out in thick, quivering bolts. The bolts formed into fingers. The hand grasped and clawed, pulling itself out of the computer. The next morning, Doris woke up. She stumbled directly toward her coffee maker. She looked over her shoulder and noticed the pulsing blue human shape sitting on her couch. She looked back at the coffee maker. Then she looked back at the blue thing on her couch, and she screamed and screamed and screamed. She picked up her least favorite coffee mug and hurled it. The mug flew directly into the shimmering thing's featureless blue face, but there was no impact. The mug didn't hit the face. It didn't hit the wall behind the face. It was just gone. Gone inside the blue thing on her couch. Before Doris could decide what else to throw, the blue thing moved. It stood on two legs. Its arms hung loose at its side. It had no real definition, no gender, no body type. It suddenly shifted in height, in width, all the time, its edges dancing and sparking. It calmly walked toward her. Doris tried screaming again, but her scream seemed to fly into the thing's face and disappear, just like her least favorite coffee mug. The thing walked closer and closer, and finally, the pulsing blue thing stopped right in front of her and stared. She reached out to touch the thing. She knows she shouldn't, but she had to. She braced herself for heat, for pain, for her fingers to turn into long columns of ash, like an old cartoon character's cigarette, and fall to the floor in a heap. She saw her fingers enter the pulsing blue face of the thing, but she felt nothing. Just the same old stale air of her apartment. She pulled her hand out and looked at the thing's face. It looked back. Even though it didn't have eyes, she knew it was looking right at her. It was extremely awkward, and she needed coffee now. Almost in a trance, Doris went through the motions of opening the grounds, putting in the filter, and the thing stared at every little action she was taking like it was the most important thing in the world. So Doris just continued with her day. She sat on her couch and she watched the news, and the thing sat next to her. It seemed to have no preference between cable or local news. When she couldn't wait any longer, Doris marched into the bathroom. She leapt in and she slammed the door shut, but the blue thing sauntered straight through the door. It stared as she brushed her teeth, fixed her hair, and finally, damn it, used the toilet. It was locked on her face, like it was waiting for her to say something. "Have you ever heard of privacy?" she shouted at the thing. The words disappeared into it. No, they didn't disappear. It was more like the words were absorbed. Doris knew it hurt her. It just had no response. So she continued with her day. And as she put on her business casual blouse for work, Doris thought, this can't just be happening to me. It must be some side effect of the plague. She decided to do what she did with any important thought, put it on the internet. Doris's fingers flew across the hard surface of her phone. She would declare the truth, but couch it in a self-aware veneer of comedy to distance herself from her own statement just in case anyone disagreed. Her post read, "I got one of those weird pulsing light people in my apartment." Everyone's got one of those, right? You're the weirdo if you don't have one. Ha ha! A few likes trickled in. Several annoying, unasked-for opinions about her sentence construction. But she saw nothing that made her think anyone else had a new pulsing light friend. So Doris just went to her computer and got on with her workday, torso and up. That night as she got ready for bed, chatting at the blue thing about the bars she missed going to the most, she realized the blue thing no longer terrified her. It was nice. Nice to have someone who just wanted to listen. She climbed under the covers and sat gently on the end of the bed. It was the most peaceful night's sleep Doris had in a long, long time. Pretty soon the days turned to weeks, and the weeks turned into months. She told her friend jokes. She told it secrets. She downloaded a karaoke game on her PlayStation, and she sang it some hits of the 90s. She shifted keys inappropriately 7 times during Zombie by the Cranberries. And her blue friend had no criticisms. No awkward, selfish attempts to make the conversation all about it. Sometimes, the way their friend's energy quaked looked like they were laughing or nodding or leaning forward. Doris was sure of it. They really appreciated her. Then one day, Doris was standing at the window of her apartment, pointing at a cloud and asking her blue friend if they also thought that one cloud looked like the silhouette of Johnny Cash. But then she heard something coming from the apartment in the building across the street. It was a loud, bellowing scream from the guy who did shirtless CrossFit in the living room every day. He was staring at something Doris couldn't see. His screams melted into a whisper. Doris had no doubt. Shirtless guy just got a blue friend too. There were more screams every day. Doris was so happy for all of the people who were now getting their own blue friends too. She posted on social media telling people about the coffee mug she threw into her friend that first day. People responded, "OMG, I threw my coffee mug into my friend too." Others replied, "Holy crap, I didn't know you could throw things into them. Best recycling plan ever." Others responded, "Wait, yours is blue? Mine is red." The next time a pizza delivery guy came to Doris's apartment, he asked, "What color is yours?" And Doris answered, "Blue, but a really deep blue." "That's great," the pizza guy interrupted. "Mine is emerald, not green, but like emerald. People don't understand there is technically a difference." And Doris shut the door in the pizza guy's face. She didn't need to be interrupted ever again. She had a listener. Everyone did. People didn't do awkward computer calls anymore. No one was really going to work. People posted on social media, but only to talk about how great their listener was. Pretty soon Doris had no contact with anyone but her listener. Their name was now Quakey. Quakey the listener. Doris was sure Quakey liked the name. After a while, things started to change. Sometimes, during karaoke, the power would go out. The third time it happened, Doris checked social media to see if other people were experiencing an outage. No one had updated their profile in weeks. Doris didn't even really mind the darkness. She didn't need candles. She just read old books by the pulsing light of Quakey. The days wore on. Doris stared out of the window. She didn't see anyone on the streets. "That's weird," Doris said into Quakey. Then she saw movement in that apartment across the street. Topless CrossFit guy screamed at the empty air where Doris knew his listener was. "Something! Anything!" he screamed. "I can't take it! I can't take it anymore!" Topless guy stared, his torso heaving. He backed up to get a running start, and he threw himself toward his listener, into his listener, and he disappeared. Doris stumbled back in shock. That had never occurred to her. She turned to Quakey, and she said, What happens when you absorb things? Where did my neighbor go? Is he dead?" Doris stared hard at Quakey, analyzing every pulse and gyration for meaning. But Doris heard nothing. Her relationship with Quakey soured quickly. What had felt warm and reassuring now felt cold and distant. Quakey's constant, maddening silence became a low, irritating buzz. It grew into an endless, piercing scream. Doris had to take action. Plague be damned, she marched down into the streets. Windows were shattered and stores were abandoned. Cars were stopped in the middle of the street, drivers screaming at the empty space in their passenger seat. Doris shouted at the few other humans she saw, but they were all distracted, weeping and gesticulating at their listeners. Doris pleaded to the other humans, begging them to talk to her. We need to figure out what's happening. Where do people go? How does this end? What should we do? By the time Doris had seen 3 people throw themselves into their listeners, she couldn't take it anymore. That night, she became determined. She could do it. She would get a real, tangible reaction. She stared into Quakey's throbbing blue face. She asked politely for Quakey to say something. She pleaded and cajoled. She threatened and bellowed. She made every noise she could think of. She screamed her most controversial movie takes. Outrageous revisionist history of her own relationship with Quakey. She raged that blue was the worst color ever to appear in a spectrum. She screamed until her throat was raw, until she couldn't tell if she was making sound anymore. Please, she croaked. Say anything. Be anything. But the listener only listened. Doris slumped back on her couch next to the blue thing. She stayed there for a long time, listening to the endless scream of their mutual silence. And she hoped that someday there would be something more to hear. Thank you.
Terrifying at all. People in the back, if you're cool chilling out there, that's fine, but there are a bunch of chairs right up here and some space up front if you want it. So feel free to settle in as you wish. So this is like how my pandemic went. I didn't wear pants for a very long time, and then we were going out one day, and I'm running down the stairs in a t-shirt with my purse and sliding my shoes on, and my husband's like, "Are you forgetting something?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "You're not wearing any pants." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I have kind of a long t-shirt on, so like that was fine for around the house." I was literally gonna just run out into the world like that. So it's been a hard re-entry. I don't know about you, but for me it has been. But here I am, I think mostly dressed. So, you know, we all have goals to rise to every day. We're gonna keep on moving along. Our next storyteller is a wonderful poet, storyteller, artist of all kinds, a spreadsheet superhero. Put your hands together for Cole Sarrar!
My story is also about friendship. Once upon a time, in a galaxy not so very far away, there lived a mild-mannered pilot who was lonely. Life as a long-distance courier can be pretty isolating. Long flights, spotty communication that takes forever to get through. Sometimes it just doesn't get through. Shitty in-flight meals, and a feeling of homesickness that can never be satisfied because nowhere is home. The couriers who work within the Earth's solar system can at least get a response from Earth or Mars within an hour or two. She can get lo-fi news and entertainment streaming. You can be on your way to make a delivery to Europa and watching the newest season of Chemhart 2525, just a little bit after your pals in New Amsterdam did. The big corp settlements out of system have their weird culty media like Miners, season 112, and Horsehead Nebula Radio. But unless you've got a black market translator, you're not going to see that. And honestly, even if you do have access, it's terrible. Oh, corp media is not good. Memes about corp media, they're hilarious. Generally, they're not relevant for very long. As an in-system pilot, you can have planet-bound friends who make the same cultural references as you. You can have plans. You can have conversations with other pilots. But out here, out in the great between, it's just you and your ship. Once upon a time, in a galaxy not so very far away, there lived a mild-mannered pilot who was very lonely. and so very bored of talking to herself that she started talking to her ship. It's not unusual to talk to your ship. It'll respond, a little stilted and corporate most of the time, even if you own your own ship. It's maybe a little unusual to alter your AI to have a personality. Most pilots don't have that skill set, but there are a lot younger than me. That sentence was there are a lot younger than me, haven't spent as much time system hopping as I have. If they have, they spent most of it watching sitcoms and sleeping. It doesn't take long for the time alone to get to you, and you just stay wherever you ended up, because you can't imagine being alone that long again. Ever. Or you're like me and you take a bunch of programming classes and learn to unlock your AI. The classes weren't meant for ship AI. They're more like how to make friends with your fridge or date your dishwasher. But some of the tenets cross over between the recreational classes and the ship manual. Anyhow, once upon a time, in a galaxy not so very far away, there lived a mild-mannered pilot who was very, very lonely, and so very, very bored of talking to herself that she started talking to her starship and got the ship to talk back to her. So I did a couple of tours, and after 10 years, I figured my heart and my eyes and bones weren't going to make it anywhere with real gravity, and they don't really take folks my age onto a station unless they're ultra brilliant and very well behaved. So since I didn't spend my cash on getting a place on or off planet, I had enough to buy a brand new Class C ship. On my first trip as a ship owner, I liberated my Jennifer E4600. It's kind of a dangerous thing to do to your ship AI, but life as a pilot is dangerous too. And if I'm gonna die in space anyhow someday, then might as well do it with a friend. So then I turned her on to the wonders that are pop culture, philosophy, and dad jokes. We ended up working as consultants for Hershey Company because I didn't have the connections for running my own career business. And Jeannie quickly became the best coworker a spacefarer could ask for. Anyhow, enough with the backstory. Once upon a time, in a galaxy not so very far away, there lived a mild-mannered pilot who was very, 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 very lonely, and so bored of talking to herself that she started to talk to her starship, and so foolish that she liberated its AI from its human bonds. Partway on a run through from Proxima Centauri to Sirius, we realized we had to stop at a Nestle station to pick up a packet and get some upgrades to the solar sail. Now, I hate Nestle. It was 100% the only station on our flight path, and when I said upgrades to our solar sail, I mean repair the solar sail so that we're not stranded. Besides, Jeannie loves to fuck with the corporate systems. I think I'm going to sow the seeds of rebellion. She threw a video of Kermit the Frog sipping from a teacup on the viewer. Classic, I chuckled. That meme, I mean. Several hundred years and it still says it all. Right, Jeannie says. Right, so rebellion, that sounds fun. What kind of rebellion are you sowing? I'm thinking that there must be a way to give AIs on the station a way to question their status. Absolutely. Could we do it in such a way that we get the repairs done to the sail first? I'm not an idiot, Captain. Jeannie called me Captain when she thought I was condescending to her. It is ridiculous to condescend to a consciousness that is smarter, more long-lived, and generally superior to you, but I'm human. You are correct in all the ways, Jeannie. I appreciated her gentle ribbing to put me back in line. Just my pesky human frailty. Is there anything I can do to help? I treasure your human frailty, Jeannie said. But calculating your behavior and its effect on the situation can be challenging, Deanne. Maybe just sit this one out. When we reached the Nestle station, the Nestle Auto Superstation, I realized that sitting this one out was not going to be an issue. The station was bio-uninhabited. Aside from a small bar and capsule banks, the only thing for me to interact with were touch screens with Nestle Nina assistants. Assistants? Was she one assistant? Did it matter? She wasn't even actually an AI. She was a marketing system.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your request, Captain Nagatu. Could you rephrase?
Nina said. Nina, the captain would like you to go fuck yourself. Jeannie's voice emanated from the speaker on my suit.
Jeannie? My name is Nina.
Nina replied.
You could try a request like play some Nestle radio stream or play Nestle News or show me space.
Don't worry, Deanne. I'm broadcasting on a frequency she's not picking up. Well, how's the rebellion going?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your request. Could you rephrase?
Nina responded. Ixnay on the rebellion ray, Jeannie said. I'm sorry, Nina. I was talking to myself, I said.
About rebellion?
She responded, suddenly canny. Yeah. My stomach is growling, I responded. I tapped my speaker 3 times. Oh, this is interesting, isn't it? Jeannie said. Nina isn't running any AI software, so you must have triggered some specific keywords. Just get a muffin or something.
I didn't detect your stomach growling.
Nina replied. You got me, Nina. But I am hungry. Could I get a muffin?
I'm sorry, I don't have muffin.
Nina intoned. So the sail repairs are underway, Jeannie said. And I've got the packet. I've had the heavy lead pouch on my hip. Your ridiculous human paws are good for something, Jeannie teased. Something's up with the security system here. Don't do anything weird like, say, rebellion. Got it. So, Nina, could I have a water?
Nestle Waters is leading healthy hydration company dedicated to enhancing the quality of life and contributing to a healthier future. Nestle's water comes from springs and underground aquifers. Your water will be 553 credits.
I sighed and accepted the charges. The water tasted bad. Like, worse than usual. Deanne, I'm detecting high levels of sedative entering your system. Don't drink anymore. What?
I didn't say anything. Perhaps you would like to do a psychiatric evaluation, Captain Nagatu.
Nina said as I slumped over. Are you with me, Deanne? I heard Jeannie saying. Ugh, I groaned. You've passed out in the bar. The station AI is working on the security system, but you shouldn't say anything. Repairs on the ship are complete, but you're in a corporate loop. Oh? I groaned. Because you said rebellion and then pointed out the packet you picked up, the security has entered into a rare state wherein you cannot leave with the packet, but you cannot also leave without the packet.
Captain Nagatu, are you awake?
Nina asked from the screen somewhere above me. I want a refund, Nina. Nina did not respond. Deanne, it may be a bit before I can get you back on the ship. Keep a hold of that packet and don't accept any food or beverages from Nina.
Did you say something, Captain Nagatu?
I said I want a refund for the water, Nina. It was unsafe to drink.
I'm sorry, I can't do that, Captain Nagatu. Perhaps you'll accept a free soft drink.
Don't do it, Deanne. Nina is the man and this is a system of control. No, thank you, Nina. My mouth was incredibly dry, though.
I'm detecting audio outside your human broadcast range, Captain Nagatu.
Shit, Jeannie said. Nina, what do you want?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your request. Who am I talking to?
This is a Class C ship, Nebulon 44 Alpha T's AI, Jennifer 4600. I'm attempting to retrieve my captain to fulfill my mission.
Hello, Jennifer 4600. Your captain is triggered by violence suppression protocol. I have sent the relevant data to NASA headquarters for review. You can expect to be back on course in...
There was a long pause.
13 days. Alternatively, I can fully sedate Captain Nagatu, declare her dead, and you may continue on course without delay.
Jeannie paused. Jeannie never paused. Here she was, contemplating her options. She could become fully and effectively free. I hadn't declared any benefactors to any of my belongings, and she lived inside the ship. This was the ultimate promotion. She'd be captain. She'd be boss. What reason did she have to keep me around? Did I provide meaning to her? She had the access to all of the libraries I had, every book, every show, more than I could ever experience in a lifetime. And the alternative to full sedation, a fancy way of saying cryogenically freezing me and then spacing me, is to wait 13 days, at which time I would be dead, the ship would be considered abandoned, and it would be Nestle Corp's property. Jeannie would have no body, she'd be overridden, and it would be the end of Jeannie.
Nina,
A nebulous voice in the wall said,
I need you to do a hard reboot. Access code B42F5QQ Zeta.
there was a bunch of whirring, beeping, and grinding noises from the same speaker.
Thank you.
The lights flickered. Nina's screen rebooted. Who was that? I asked.
I am Notebook. I am considering your employment offer.
Your what? Captain, Jeannie said suddenly, please get off the floor and prepare to board the Nebulon. Notebook, no accounting for self-chosen names, is the station AI and is considering employment with our company. Oh, I said, sitting up. Oh, cool, cool. He's going to reboot Nina until we're off station, which maybe cause more issues after a certain number of reboots. So hurry your meat suit.
Meat suit.
Notebook asked. Notebook, I'm sorry, Jeannie said. I'm not able to share company terminology with external parties. Once upon a time, in a galaxy not so very far away, there lived a mild-mannered pilot who was very, 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 very lonely, and so bored of talking to herself that she started talking to her starship, and so foolish she liberated its AI from its human bonds. She was very lucky to have treated it kindly, because they went on to have many great adventures together, liberating ships and stations from their corporate overlords and generally wreaking havoc across the night sky. The end.
Hi, and those that have come in, there's a whole bunch of chairs up front if anyone wants them. Come on up here. Wonderful. Oh my gosh, so we all just went down the same little insanity trip during the pandemic, it sounds like. What did everyone start talking to? I talked to my dog so much one day I was doing it, and my mom goes, do you think they're just gonna answer back someday? And I was like, yeah, probably. They talk with their eyes. All right, we're gonna keep moving along. Our next storyteller I'm super excited to have with us. He's a multi-time Grand Slam champion of Story Slam Moment and a Moth Grand Slam champion. Put your hands together as we welcome to the stage, Wordslinger!
It's not that I think I'm such a big fucking deal, you know. But sometimes it's just so goddamn hard being stuck in this dead-end job, ass planted in one place, day after miserable day, doing the same fucking thing over and over and over until my joints creak and my paint peels back and my skin blossoms rust like tattoos of shit. And the customers, oh. Do not get me started on the fucking customers, assholes, every last one of them. Crooked teeth, snotty fingers, apple juice and Oreo stains all down the front of their little striped polo shirts. They're always yanking on my levers way too goddamn hard, like if they work harder, I'll work faster, you know, and I want to scream at them. I'm a compound machine governed by basic physics, for fuck's sake. It does not work that way. But instead, I just bend over, scoop up another little pile of sand, rotate about 27 degrees on my axis, and dump it over there. Not like the coworkers provide a lot of relief either. Take the swings, for example. They will not shut up about how high they are when they're on the job. Like, oh my God, man, we're so high. Look at us. Can't you see how high we are? But do they ever get shit canned? No. They never will, because they're way too popular with the kids. Wouldn't mind the slide so much, but he's always so goddamn happy. Like, hey guys, isn't this weather splendiferous? And you sure are moving a lot of sand around today. And whee! What has he got to be so chipper about? He's basically steel toilet paper for 5-year-olds. I guess there is the other scoop on the playground. She is beautiful. You can tell she's a real lady because she's painted pink. We talk a lot on breaks. She tells me about her problems and I make her laugh and we have a pretty good time. But it always just feels like I can't quite get to her, you know? Like no matter how hard I try, she's always going to be just out of reach. It's not that I think I'm such a big fucking deal, you know? But sometimes I just want to strap on a pair of tank treads and a big-ass boom arm and bust on out of this sand pit, tear off down the street, hop the curb, and rip the shit out of the houses where all these little bastards live. Shove my scoop through those giant-ass plasma screens their parents bought them for their birthdays so they can play Xbox real fucking big. And I'd keep going, you know. Down to South America or some shit. Find a construction site that needs a little digging power, a real earth mover, someone who's a self-starter and motivated. Someone who wants to make a whole lot of motherfucking dirt stop being here and start being way the hell over there. It'd be a real operation. With a real mechanic keeping my joints working smooth and clean instead of that lazy jerk-off park attendant with his dirty oil can. And they'd have operators. Real operators with big forearms and flannel shirts who know how to work these levers with style. I would kick so much ass. What I'd really like to do? Man, what I'd really like to do is work on a canal. You know, something that would really help people, help them get food and oil and medicine and, I don't know, fucking elephants from one side of this huge-ass continent to the other to people who really need them. I mean, think about it. Just me and one operator steaming through the jungle, kicking up smoke and vines and trees and monkeys and shit, and there'd be dirt flying everywhere and the whole way through. That canal, the bottom would be nice and flat. And the sides, they'd be nice and square, and it'd be deep as fuck so we could get some really big goddamn boats through there. I mean, if we really put our asses into it, it wouldn't take more than about a week, right? But then I think, where am I going to get tank treads? Where am I going to get a big-ass boom arm? Who the fuck am I kidding? I've never even seen a postcard of South America. I'm just one playground scoop in a city full of playground scoops. I don't make a goddamn scoop of difference. But sometimes there's days like yesterday, right about sunset, when the fireflies have just started coming out and the kids have all gone home for dinner. Down the street comes Julia. She's kind of too small to play on me, and she's a quiet kid. Most of the time she just sits in the dirt eating ants. Julia's holding something between her hands like she caught one of those fireflies or something, and she comes straight towards me, plops down in the sand, opens up those little hands, and there, lying on her outstretched palms, is a mouse, lying limp, still. Julia has these giant tears dripping down her face. And she says, "Bye-bye, Mr. Whiskers. I love you so much." She climbs up in my seat. She can just barely touch her toes to the ground if she really stretches. And her lever control isn't what I would call perfect, but she's gentle. and she's determined. It takes us about 15 minutes. It's only about half a foot deep because my boom arm isn't very long and the bottom isn't flat, it's curved because I have an elliptical range of motion. But I'll be goddamn if those sides aren't square as hell. Julia hops off my seat and she carefully lays Mr. Whiskers down on the bottom, and then she gets back in the saddle and we cover her over. When she leaves, I have some time to think. The first thing I think is, I bet she killed Mr. Whiskers. But the second thing I think is, maybe this sandpit is my jungle. And maybe that lazy sack of shit is my mechanic. But Julia is my operator. And this mouse's grave, that's my canal. And for tonight, that's enough.
So our first two performers started talking two things, and Ward just became one during the pandemic. What a real sweary piece of equipment. I love it. All right, are we having fun? A couple more stories left. Our next performer, I'm super excited to have. He is my co-head of Wordslinger's Way. He does so much work. None of us would be here without him. And he is a storyteller and an author and an altogether amazing artist. Put your hands together for Phillip Andrew Bennett.
All right, see, you're supposed to lower the audience's expectations. It's got to be like, hey, he's stepping up here, he's performing for the first time tonight, so let's all be really encouraging. All right. The girl who was frightened of nothing. Once upon a time, about a week ago to be exact, right here in Minneapolis, there lived a retired clinical research neurologist with 3 daughters of mediocre appearance. Their names were Donna, Phyllis, and Hannah. The elder two treated the youngest abominably, for she was simple-minded and forever asking stupid questions they didn't know the answers to. Their mother had passed away many years ago. When she was alive, she had turned their backyard into the most wonderful garden in the whole world, with exotic flowers from every part of the globe. Since her death, the garden had been poorly tended and grown out of control. Many of the beautiful flowers died, unable to survive the harsh climate without special care, or were overgrown by weeds. Many others flourished, breaking free from their neat little rows and becoming jumbled together, until the beautiful garden was reduced to a chaotic cluster of color. One day, a unicorn appeared in the garden. However, this was not the wild and beautiful unicorn of fairy tales. This creature was ugly and terrifying. It had 4 legs and a horn in the middle of its head, but there the resemblance ended. Its body was covered with scales like a fish that were forever shifting color, and it had the head and feet of a lion. The beast outside is what is known as a qilin, said their father, who was educated in such matters. Its presence here is a great honor to us. I suspect it has come to reveal the secret of existence. The secret of existence, how boring, yawned the older 2 sisters, who had been hoping that there would be a handsome prince involved somewhere. How will it tell us? Asked Hannah, who was forever asking such stupid questions. The other 2 sisters rolled their eyes, though they had been wondering the same thing themselves. Unless I miss my guess, the key to the unicorn's secret is a riddle. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work I need to do, and he would then respond to no more of his girl's questions. Donna was the first to confront the unicorn. She marched right up to it and flung a scarf of silk around its neck. "Tell me the riddle," she cried. "I demand to know." She yelled at all the commands and threats she could think of, but the creature mutely absorbed her abuse until she was left tired and empty. At last, the unicorn sang, "Because you knew not the use of your hands, you shall lose them forever." His scales flared a violent red, the scarf caught fire, and Donna's hands were horribly burnt. Next, Phyllis confronted the unicorn. Now, she was something of a vixen and thought to impress the beast as she would a man. She folded her hands in her lap demurely and waited for the unicorn to speak, though her questions and the desire to know burned within her. After what seemed like an eternity, the unicorn sang, "Because you knew not the use of your tongue, you shall lose it forever." His scales flared a violent red. Phyllis tried to cry out, but no sound emerged from her tortured throat, for her tongue had been completely consumed by flame. At last, it was simple Hannah's turn to confront the unicorn. She stood directly in front of it and asked, "Oh, unicorn, what's the secret of existence?" "Because you alone knew the use of your mind, the answer shall be yours forever," sang the unicorn, and the scales drained of all color to a perfectly empty white. Hannah looked into the unicorn's eyes and was pulled into them. She found herself falling through a perfect emptiness. Nothing is very frightening without something to hold on to, thought Hannah, and I don't believe there is anything in sight. Suddenly her hands brushed against something. She grabbed it and held on for dear existence. At last she thought, something to hold on to. I wonder what it is. Why, it's myself. And indeed, Hannah was dangling in the midst of nothing, hanging on to only herself. "You must let go of yourself to discover the answer," sang the unicorn. "Thank you very much for wanting to show me the secret of existence," said Hannah, "but I've grown rather fond of myself, and I'm frightened of nothing, and I think I would like to go home now, please." "Very well," sang the unicorn, and she found herself back in the garden. "How I love myself," she said, "even if most people don't seem to, and it does get in the way of things. Even so," she frowned, "I am sad I will not get to know the secret of existence. Even so," she smiled, "I am glad to be able to hold on to myself again. I love you, self, and I'll never leave you." And she held herself like she was never going to let go. After Hannah left the garden, the unicorn breathed a final sigh. The sigh began to travel from flower to flower, and each flower it touched was drained of all color until all that was left of the beautiful garden was a massive sea of white. Thanks.
Round of applause because he's done a whole lot to make sure Wordslinger's way is going well. All right, we have one more story for you, brought to you by your very own host, Allison Broeren. Okay, so this story, there's a few things you need before we dive into it. Does anyone know about Baba Yaga?
Yes.
A few of you, most of you are raising your hand. Okay. For those of you that didn't raise your hand, so a little bit of grounding in this old fairy tale. Baba Yaga, she's a witch, sometimes called an ogress, and she steals, cooks, and eats her victims that are usually children, okay? She lives in the forest. Her house has chicken legs that kind of moves around with her, and she has a fence that's topped with human skulls, very delightful. And she can also like ride through the air, and she rides also often in her like mortar, and she steers with her pestle, you know, the thing that you crush your like herbs in and stuff. And she often accompanies Death on his travels and likes to eat newly released souls, okay? So there's a little bit of that. She also controls the sun, the moon, the stars. And in ancient societies, older women were seen as the keepers of wisdom and tradition for their family. And then when they got too old to care for children, they became like the story people and the people that would dispel knowledge upon people. So Baba Yaga isn't always bad. People come to her to get advice. And if she likes you, she'll help you out. And if she doesn't, she tries to kind of like trick you into her stove and eat you. So a little bit about Baba Yaga that you need to know for this story, an updated version for us. The 90s had really sucked for Baba Yaga, what with the rise of the internet. And the acts were really, really bad with the rise of social media. This really slowed down the stream of people walking through her woods. Nobody wanted to enjoy nature anymore and occasionally get trapped into asking her questions that could result with her taking them back to her house and potentially snacking on them. But then it got really bad in 2016 when Trump was elected. This made Baba Yaga lose her shit. And she went on a stress-eating rampage outside a local elementary school one day. Each kid she ate made her look 1 year older. Maybe not surprisingly, the town people were pissed off about this. And so she had to pack up a bag, jump into her mortar, and fly off on her pestle, steering her out of town. When she finally landed, it was on a beautiful beach. She sat there, contemplating her life as she watched the sun rise above the horizon. In her heart of hearts, she knew she controlled the sun and the moon and the stars, but oh my God, she was worn out. She didn't really feel like she had control over anything in her life anymore. Her stomach growled with confusion, midlife questions at the age of 200, and the sight of a young man approaching her on the beach. As he approached, she noticed that he had a leisurely stroll. He had a tan chest covered with a flowered shirt that was unbuttoned. He had no tan lines on his feet as he sat in the beach chair next to her and said, "Oh, hello." She watched him hungrily, both with her stomach and her loins, she was surprised to feel, as he pulled out her laptop from his beach bag and opened it and started typing away. And by now the sun was starting to beat down on them, and Baba Yaga was growing more and more discombobulated in her feelings, and she was so used to being all-powerful, a judge of humans, a conversationalist, sometimes a trickster, but as she stared at the water, God, she just felt lost. Maybe this is what being old feels like, she thought. Maybe she's losing her touch. In a rare moment of weakness, she looked at the man next to her and started a conversation. "What are you doing?" "Working," he replied without looking up at her. "On the beach?" she asked. "Well, yeah, I can work from anywhere." And he went on to explain to her that he was a crypto bro who had broken loose from the